Hey, all you creative string players out there, Jacob here with your official Namm 2022 recap. So if this year's show had any type of overarching theme, for us, it was a smaller, gentler Namm. Due to supply chain issues, and this being the first year that the show was back since COVID, this show was extremely small, with a lot of our favorite manufacturers either bringing in very, very small, scaled down versions of the displays they usually bring, and maybe most disappointingly, the big companies that did come to NAMM this year rarely had any new products to show, not just for bowed strings, but really for anything. So if you're an amplified acoustic player, Fishman didn't come out with any new products. Bags had a miniature table, again, nothing new to show. And most smaller pickup manufacturers like Schotten, Shadow, and Cremona didn't even bother showing up. And same deal for those of you that are interested in solid body electric instruments, with Mark Wood bringing the same instruments he does every year, maybe a few new paint jobs. Yamaha having just a tiny small corner in their display area with the same electric instruments they've had out for years, and NS not even bothering to show up. One notable exception would be 3D Various, which also wasn't, I don't think, bringing anything new specifically to this show, but Megan and I hadn't really gotten our hands on their instruments before, and other than the unique design process, which is very cool, 3D printing violins, and they do make their own pickups in sort of a Barbera style. Not a lot of innovation happening there either, unfortunately. Unless you're into crazy lights on your instrument, which isn't a particularly new idea either, come to think of it. All that is to say, we had to work a little bit harder this year to find new and innovative products that you, our string playing brothers and sisters, would be interested in. But luckily, we did find a few diamonds in the rough. And by far the coolest thing that we saw this year, and our Innovation Award winner, is the digitized system from a small company in Vienna, Austria. Now, in the past, for many reasons, I've been no fan of MIDI violin. As a matter of fact, our MIDI violin video has gotten a lot of hate over the years. But even I have to admit, this new system and how it's implemented is a real potential game changer for bowed string players. They've really developed a new approach here and bundled it with a built-in Bluetooth microphone, a potentiometer for controlling expression, and a whole bunch of other crazy features that disappear right into the fingerboard, so all you see is an acoustic violin with no wires and no clutter. I got to admit, this is the first MIDI system that I've seen that intrigued even me, and I think really has potential to maybe get the whole idea of MIDI bowed strings past the world of gimmickry and into something that could really be useful. This was also our first chance to check out the Eastman Plus series, which has been around for a little while, but because it was released during COVID, Megan and I think most of the general public, hadn't really gotten the chance to get our hands on one. And while the basic idea of the Eastman Plus series isn't particularly innovative in any way, they're just putting a pickup inside of a violin and putting a discrete jack in there, so it doesn't look too obvious. Eastman has done some really savvy things with these instruments that I think allow them to really fill a lot of niches that haven't been addressed yet in this market. First of all, they've really harnessed the size of their company and the power of Chinese craftsmanship to create models that, for the most part, really are for students and can come in at a much lower price point than the Realist, for example, or some of their competitors who've been on the market for years. Secondly, and I think even more cool, is the fact that they're also offering this for cello, which is awesome. That's a segment of the market that really hasn't been addressed at all. And last but not least, and maybe a bit more niche, they offer viola-sized 5 strings for viola players and people that are sort of comfortable and used to that scale, and also violin-sized 5 strings. And I think that's a really savvy move on their part to help make sure that players find success with the instruments relatively quickly compared to their four-string counterparts. Just in the same way that Yamaha electric instruments generally tend to be successful because players coming from the acoustic world can just pick them up and immediately play their concerti and feel right at home. I did have some minor concerns about the jack and cable, and I think the pickup design could be better. But overall, it seemed to us like a very solid entry into a market that hasn't really been fully addressed or exploited yet by other companies. And last but not least, we found a very cool instrument care system that I think you guys are really going to love. For more in-depth information about any of these products, check out the individual videos we made in the Namm 2022 playlist. And for Megan, I'm Jacob, and we'll see you at Namm 2023.